Why, hello there, everybody. This is Tanuki Tail, and I really wanted to share my thoughts about the Daemon X Machina demo/beta. They call it a demo because it's free to download for everyone, but this is not the final build of the game because they are specifically asking for feedback about the game. In fact, and by just I mean about an hour ago or something, I submitted my feedback in an email because they were sending out an email to random people that have downloaded the demo asking for feedback. And so I did that, but I also wanted to make a video. And this is, well, let me just show you. This is the demo that I've played the most of. I've never played any other demo this much. In fact, I've spent over 6 hours in this game. In the demo, I mean. Been playing it so long, I forgot it's a demo. System here. As you can see here, playtime 6:01, so a little over 6 hours. Which I think is enough time to qualify me to speak about it. First of all, I am very passionate about mecha. I've been a lifelong mecha fan ever since Gundam Wing back on Toonami. And so a lot of people might think that makes me biased towards this game. They might think that it makes me like the game more automatically just because it's mecha. But it's actually the contrary. Because I'm so passionate about mecha, I'm holding this game to a much higher standard because there aren't many mecha games out there. It's really a niche market, you could say. And because it's so niche, I really want it to be good because I want there to be more good mecha games because there aren't that many. So, anyways, I'm going to start off by saying the things I like about the demo because, well, I do like it quite a bit. I like this game. I knew I was going to buy it when I first saw the trailers, originally at E3, but I'm even more involved with this game now, so I'm definitely going to get it. Anyways, I'm going to start off by saying the things I like, and then I'm going to talk about the things that I don't like, but are not necessarily a criticism because it either very well may get resolved in the game. Well, for an example, well, you'll understand when I get there. Basically, I have positives, negatives, but may not be negatives because probably will be resolved in the full game. Because obviously this is not the full game. It's only a little short bit of the game. It's only 4 missions. And then after talking about that, I will get on to the things I do not like and the things that they should fix. So, and I'm going loosely on a schedule here. Not schedule, what's it called? Script. Yeah, script. I'm going loosely on a script here. I have some notes. So, I'm going in the order between things I like, things that may be bad, and then things I don't like. But I may retroactively go back and, like if I talk about things I like and then I move on to things I don't like, I might remember something I like and then go back and say that. So anyways, that's the format I'm going with. First of all, I really like the visual style. It has a very strong stylistic direction, which I can appreciate. I know it won't be for everyone. I know that by going with such a strong stylistic direction, it may turn some people off, but I can really appreciate the creators having a vision and sticking with it. And I happen to very much like the visual style. It's not so apparent in the hangar here, but it's very I guess you could say cell shaded, but the shadows are really heavy. And I'll just show you. So I'll start a mission here. And in addition to the shading being really heavy, there is a lot of red, which gives it a very distinct atmosphere. And like I said, there are 4 missions in this demo/beta, which are here. A, B, C, D, E. Okay, E's lower than D. I don't know if it's just me, but every time I have to think of something alphabetically, I can't just look at 2 letters and know which one comes afterwards. I have to sing the whole alphabet to remember which comes after which. Unless it's like A, B, of course. Then I could just know, oh, B comes after A. But if I say something like, you know, M and T, I have to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. Anyways, that's a tangent. Rank E. Second mission. I've been grinding the second mission a lot. Well, I can show you. I've been grinding the second mission a lot because of a certain armor parts that drop here, and I got the full set, but I can show you that later. City District Cleanup. Start. I'm just showing you the art style here. Because I really like that. And of course, the style direction is going to come down to personal taste. If you don't like the stylistic direction, I can't tell you you're wrong, but personally, I like it a lot. I just realized this video will be a lot longer than I was originally planning because I'm only on the first point, which is the visual style, and I've already been talking for a few minutes here. Anyways, I'll skip the... I don't know if I should skip the cutscene. The story doesn't really matter. The missions here give you just enough context. Gargoyle there. The cutscenes here give you just enough context to understand the mission objective, but obviously they're not going to give you the full story in the missions. I don't really care if the story's good or not, though. I'm sure it'll be fine, but I don't play games for story.
Continue your approach. The order.
As you can see, the sky is very red. And the shading is very heavy. I think calling it red is an understatement. The entire sky is red.
Scanning battlefield.
So you have really heavy shading, like I said, red sky.
Opponents will not be affected. Initiate
It's pretty obvious this is all deliberate. And I've heard some people complain about the style. I highly doubt they will go back on it because, like I said, you can tell they're sticking with a vision, which I can respect. Okay, so visual style. That was my first point. I like that a lot because that's the most apparent thing as soon as you start playing. So another thing I like about this game is that, well, I'm a big fan of Monster Hunter, and a lot of things in this game remind me of Monster Hunter. So specifically, the fourth mission, the last mission in this demo, is a big boss fight. And there are different parts on the boss you can break, and then when you break them, he can't use that part very well. Just like in Monster Hunter, if you cut a monster's tail off, they can't hit you with their tail anymore, and so on. So you can break parts off of bosses, and you also have to learn their tails before they do a big attack. So the bosses really do remind me of Monster Hunter. And also, in addition, also, speaking of the boss, you can break off he has this cannon that shoots a big laser out, okay? I'm assuming most of you people watching this have played it already and you know what I'm talking about, but just in case you're watching it because you don't have the time to play it or whatever, I'm explaining it. He has this big laser on his back. Back. I put quotations around back. It's not humanoid or anything. And so after he shoots the laser, these things come out on the side, presumably for exhaust or whatever, so it can cool down. And if you break all of them, the big cannon actually comes off, and then you can pick up the cannon, turn it towards the boss, and shoot it with its own cannon. You can only do that once, of course. What the... We just pierced the heavens. And I find that really cool, and I'm expecting and hoping that the other bosses in the game have some secret way to break off one of their things, break off some part of them, and then use it against them like that. That's pretty hype. Another thing that's like Monster Hunter is that, I've already mentioned it, you can grind missions. So for example here, I've been grinding, where's the enemy? I don't have my glasses on. I can't really see the screen very well here. Where's the enemy? The Stry enemy. I haven't played the demo in a couple of days. Stry enemy. I've been grinding this mission to fight these Stry enemies because where'd they go? Like I said, no glasses. There it is. You can grind missions as many times as you want because the drops are RNG'd. And so obviously, if you want to get a full set, like I'm sporting now, I'm sporting the full Raikiri set, I grinded this enemy in this specific mission because as far as I'm aware, you can only get the Raikiri armor in this mission. I grinded this mission a bunch until I got the armor. So just like Monster Hunter, it doesn't, well, Monster Hunter kind of forces you to be grindy, but the game doesn't really require you to be grindy because I got straight to the fourth mission without having to grind or replay anything. But because I like playing the game, I want to go back and grind and get better parts. So like Monster Hunter, you can go back and grind for specific parts and drops. And also like Monster Hunter, there's a big emphasis on preparing before a mission. So obviously the hub is in the hangar and you can prepare things there. And then when you go out on a mission, you get the mission briefing, but you're also able to prepare things, outfit your mech and things like that before you begin the mission, just like how you can change your equipment and gear and inventory before a hunt in Monster Hunter. And also, this is probably the least significant but most notable things that reminded me of Monster Hunter is that after a mission is done, it doesn't immediately send you back to the hub. It gives you a timer. For example, it says, oh, you're going to... It has a timer of, I think, 60 seconds or something when a mission's over. And when the 60 seconds are up, you get sent back to base. And during that time, you can go around and pick up drops that you haven't gotten yet. Or you can also just hold the start button, the plus button, and go back to base if you don't want to do anything. But that's very reminiscent of Monster Hunter. So, like I said, very similar to Monster Hunter. Another game it reminded me of is Star Fox. A lot of the... So, for example... a lot of the basic missions, like here, feel like Star Fox, just because you have this designated area. You can't leave the area. Well, actually, you can leave the area a little bit, which is... I have a lot to say about that. I'll talk about that later. But you go around, shooting enemies, and you don't actually have to have perfect aiming here, because what happens is, if you're in range of an enemy, and you are facing them, as you saw this little cube go around them, it locks on. So your aim doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to be in range and then face them for a while, and it locks on. If you notice, one of my complaints about the game, which I'll get to, is the color of it is red when it's locked on, which does not stand out very well at all against the background or anything. So I wish they would change that to green or give me the option to change the color. But anyways, so Star Fox and Monster Hunter, those are the games. Those are the two games it's most similar to, in my opinion. Something else I appreciate quite a bit. Like I said before, mecha is a very niche genre, and it's very apparent that these people know their target audience. So in the hangar, when you are customizing your mech, you can look at some very specific stats. It gets very detailed, and you can look at all of it. Not to mention that the mech customizer is very in-depth and very fun. They knew that people would be spending a lot of time customizing their mechs and whatnot. I don't think it's surprising that a lot of Gundam model makers would play this game, and then since, they spend time modeling their Gundams and posing them, taking pictures of them, you can do the same thing here in the photo mode. I like building models, if you couldn't tell. Although I would like to build more, but it's very time-consuming, and between everything else I'm busy with, and video games, and the live stream, and the, Twitch channel, I wish I could... Anyways, I'm going on another tangent. I like okay, basically, all I'm saying is, as a Gundam builder, a model builder, I very much appreciate that you can go into, photo mode. I've already shared some photos on Twitter, so I don't need to take any here, but I really appreciate that. So, what I was talking about is the stats, right? Hangar, equipment, armor. So you can, if I remember how to do this. Okay, here. You can look at some very specific details about everything. And like I said, they have a very specific target audience here, and that target audience really likes the details and the specs. It's all about the specs and the details, okay? At least for me. I think I can speak for the majority of mech fans. I think I'm pretty representative. So that's another thing I like. Another thing I like, which I did not know about because... Well, one of the... Okay, so the tutorial tells you there's some... Here's one of my negatives. I guess I'm going... I guess I'm following the format very loosely here. So one of my negatives is that the tutorial at the start of the demo, it is very basic. It tells you the very basic stuff that anyone that's ever played a game before could figure out, but it doesn't tell you some of the stuff that isn't intuitive. So for example... I didn't even know about this until I saw someone talk about it online. You can actually customize the HUD, which I think is great. I wish more games did this. Giving you the option to customize your HUD however you want. So in options, HUD settings. Look at this. Arsenal HUD. For example, let's say you want the minimap bigger. Look at that. You can make the minimap bigger or smaller or move it around. So you can make a completely customized HUD just to your liking, which I really appreciate. I wish more games would do stuff like that. So that's a huge plus, even though I would imagine this is easy to implement, and I don't know why more games don't do it. So I wish this was the norm, but it's not. So this is a huge plus. Like I said, I really appreciate that they're giving us the option to get really detailed on this stuff, looking at the specs and making a HUD just how we like it. What else here? I'm looking through my notes. So, the controls, how the game controls is... the people making this game worked on the Armored Core series before. And I've never played Armored Core before, so I don't know how similar it is to that. But like I said, I've never played it before. And when I started playing this demo, at first it felt really weird. Not bad, but weird. And I had to get used to it. It took some time to get used to. But once I got used to it, it felt really nice. And I really like that it took time to get used to, because it made it feel like you had to gain some sort of mastery over the game. Like you had to actually learn how to operate this piece of machinery. It didn't feel like you were immediately moving around a biological character. Like right now, I'm controlling a person, which is very intuitive, right? It shouldn't feel that way in a mech, because you're not supposed to feel like you're walking around. You're supposed to feel like you are piloting a mech, and it felt like that, because you jump in a mech for the first time, acting like they are real. You jump in a mech for the first time, you're not going to exactly know what to do, or you're not going to do it with such finesse that it feels like an extension of your body. But after a while of playing, like I said, I've played for 6 hours. Once it started to feel like an extension of my body, it felt really nice. And part of that, I think part of what really helped is that even in just the 4 missions in the demo, the parts you get to upgrade your mech drastically and significantly increase. For example, I outfitted my mech with the Raikiri parts, which are lightweight, and so they afford more mobility. This feels way better than the default armor when you start out. So like I said, it felt very awkward at first, but after customizing the mech to have more mobility, and also after finding the auxiliary part, the down booster, it makes it where I can... So as you saw in some of the gameplay earlier, you can thrust upwards, and then you can cut out by pushing in on the left analog, and you fall down. You start to descend. The down booster lets you descend really fast. And fortunately, like I said, the drops are RNG, and I saw that a lot of people didn't get this because the auxiliary parts are pretty rare. I only found this one, fortunately, early, and then after grinding for the Raikiri parts a while, I got the grenades, which I do not prefer over the down booster, because like I said, the down booster makes the game feel way better. And so based off of the drastic change in how good the game feels from 4 missions because of upgrading the mech, I can only imagine that would only continue in the full game, you know? So playing for just a matter of 4 missions, and it goes from feeling like it does in the beginning to this, I can only imagine how drastic of a difference it'll feel controlling. You know, I don't know how long the game will be, but in endgame, controlling a mech endgame will feel drastically better and smoother than in early game. But that's good, because it offers a sense of progression. What else? Oh yeah, but like I said, if somebody, I don't know how similar this is to Armored Core, but if somebody's played Armored Core before, they might have had an easier time getting accustomed to the controls. Let's see here. Okay, so I think that covers most of the positives. Like I said, I really like this demo. I'm definitely getting the game. So now I'm going to talk about some things that may be an issue, but maybe won't, because obviously I'm not operating under complete information here with this just being a demo. So like I was mentioning, the down booster. The game feels much better with the down booster. I was having way more fun once I got the down booster. And that's RNG, so fortunately I got that early on. So, one of my concerns is that some parts, like the down booster, for example, might be necessary to an extent to... Obviously, you don't need this to beat the game or beat the demo by any means. But necessary to really feel what the game has to offer. But obviously, I guess, why I say it's a concern, but it's probably not a legitimate concern, because once the full game is out, the game will be much longer than this. And then you can get all sorts of parts and deck your mech out with all sorts of things, and you won't really have a chance to miss something as vital as the down booster. Nosedive booster, down booster. Because I would say this is pretty important, you know, if somebody played through this demo and they didn't get this thing, I feel like their experience with the demo will be a lot different than mine. I know for a fact if I never came across this, I would not have had as much fun with the game, or I would have had a different impression about the game if I didn't come across this during my time with it. But I think that's only a real concern if it's a short demo, because then you could play through the whole thing and not get this drop. But if you're playing through the whole game, then you could find things like that. So like I said, that was my first minor concern, but probably not a real one. Okay, another thing I wanted to talk about, I wouldn't know if I would call this a positive or negative. It's just something I noted. You can also get, in addition to guns, you can get a sword. I got a sword in this. So there are melee weapons. At least one. Let's see here. I have it on my back here, because you can switch out weapons. Left, right pylon. I actually could show gameplay of this. I found that the sword is very good in... Okay, so obviously the guns are good. The guns are the main weapon types, right? I found that the sword is very good against little small enemy types that you can pretty much kill in one hit. And when you use the sword, you close a gap really quickly. You do this attack, which lunges you forward, and then you do the attack at the end of that distance. And so I found that it's really good at gap closing, and particularly gap closing and destroying little annoying enemies, multitude of small enemies. But it is not very good against the boss, because, like I said, it moves you forward, and so when it brings you in direct contact with the boss is so big and it moves around so fast, it really just disorients you, and you can't zoom the camera out far enough to see what's going on when you do that. So I don't know if that's intentional or not, but the sword definitely feels way more useful against small enemies and not very good against the boss, unless you can be really good at orienting yourself. I can demonstrate some of that later. I guess I could demonstrate it now. I was originally just going to talk about the game, but I've already been demonstrating other stuff, so might as well. Orders, do the second mission. Okay. So I'm going to switch to the sword. The sword.
Hey, rookie. If you got...
Scanning battlefield.
Okay.
Minor concentrations of femto.
So, obviously, if you're locked on, you will,
Initiating each arsenal state of opening squad.
remember, don't have my glasses on. See what I mean?
Begin the
You do this spinning attack, and you lunge forward and do the attack.
Welcome to the Oval Link. Exciting, isn't it? Focus. This palace surrounded by 2,000
But,
high walls.
as you can imagine, doing it
You keep busting my
on a big boss that's moving around really fast, if you get that close to him to hit him with a melee weapon, you can't really see what he's doing with the rest of his body, which is important because, like I said, it's like Monster Hunter, in which you need to see the enemy's body language to predict what sort of moves he's going to do next. Okay, so another... Okay, here's another thing that the tutorial did not explain very well, or at all. I don't think the tutorial explained this at all, but it might have, in which case I either just If it did explain this, it didn't do a good job of it, but I'm pretty sure it didn't explain it at all. So, as you can see, I'm walking around here, right? You can also do that in the missions because, well, you can jump out at will and then re-enter your mech. And you can also shoot things when you're on foot like this. But if your mech is destroyed in a mission, it will crash because, obviously, you can't use it anymore. So your mech's broken and it crashes and you have to eject from it. And then you're walking around and you can't re-enter the mech because it's broken. I have not figured out how to either repair the mech or hijack another thing. I don't know how to progress. I don't know how the game wants me to progress a mission after my mech has been destroyed and I'm on foot. I would assume that you ask your allies to come and repair it or something, because I also have no idea what the femto energy does. Gameplay-wise, because the tutorial didn't really explain that either. I think the femto energy has something to do with repairing a mech or something. But like I said, this isn't a real concern because it's a concern with the demo because I don't know what to do with that. But in the full game, I mean, when it comes out, you can either just look it up online or the full game will probably have more in-depth tutorials as you progress. So yeah, it happened a couple times, but when I would get shot down and have to eject my mech, I had no idea how to progress on the mission besides just running around and shooting things on foot, but that would take forever. So when that happened, I usually just exited the mission and then restarted it. Okay, so another thing that... Okay, so this isn't a real concern either because it'll be in the real game, I'm assuming. So okay, so in the... You saw how there were, as many games do, have tips on the loading screen. So one of the loading screen tips that I recall is that it was saying that if you find graffiti in a map, you can scan it and it'll get added to your inventory of decals. And the decals would be, decals you can put on your mech. In the demo, there are 4 slots. Okay? See how, before I found these, it was 1, 2... just like how 3 and 4 are here. If you want nothing, it would be this, okay? So, I found 1, I found 2, so I was thinking, okay, so I guess there's a 3 and 4. I guess there are 2 other decals in this demo that I haven't found. So I was assuming that maybe they are graffiti in the map. And I have to go scan it to add it to my inventory here. And so I spent a lot of time searching around for graffiti, and I actually did find 2 pieces of graffiti in a map. I don't remember exactly where it is. It'll take me a while to go find it again, but I screenshotted it. Actually, I can show you. Because I screenshotted it. I shared it on Twitter. I was asking people if they figured out how to scan it. I could not figure out how to scan the graffiti. And so I'm just assuming that that'll be a feature in the main game and it's not implemented in here yet. And they just forgot that the tip was in the loading screen. Or the tip could appear in the loading screen. Here's one. This turtle on the side of a building, and this lady with an umbrella. I think this is very deliberate graffiti. I think this was intentionally put there to be scanned so you can add it to your inventory, but I have no idea how I would do this in the demo. So like I said, either the tutorial didn't explain this, but I think it's more likely that this just has not been added to the game yet, but they're planning to add it because it was in the tips. Okay, so here's probably a more legitimate concern. It doesn't bother me too much, but I know a lot of people are concerned about this. So the frame rate of the game, okay? The frame rate does seem to dip a little bit when there's a lot of things going on. It doesn't seem... I don't think I've checked, but I don't think the frame rate goes over 30, okay? And normally I would be fine with that because I'm not a graphics whore or anything. I'm not obsessed with, 120 FPS. 30 FPS is usually fine for me, okay? Unless it's like some sort of fighting game in which 60 FPS is important. But 30 frames a second that dips a little bit when there's a lot of action going on, it wasn't an issue, okay? It was not an issue in this demo. Why I think it could potentially be an issue is that, like I said, the mechs get faster and faster as you put better parts on them to give them more maneuverability. So I can potentially foresee in late game when you have a really fast mech zipping around and you need to move the screen around really fast with a lot of enemies around you, it could get really overwhelming with that kind of frame rate, moving around that fast. A lower frame rate becomes way more apparent when you're moving the screen, when there are a lot of moving things really fast and you have to move the camera around, and it can get a little jarring. So I'm hoping that it's either not a problem or they fix the frames. Well, I say fix the frames. Just keep a constant frame rate that looks good on the game. I'm not a graphics whore or anything, but I know a lot of people would be concerned about that. Okay, so another concern, it's not a concern, like I said, I'm still in the yellow here. I have green as things I like, yellow as things that may be a concern, but probably will be alleviated, and then red are the actual things I don't like. So another yellow here is that I hope there's good mission variety, because the very core gameplay, well, it's just an inherent part of flying around shooting things that you're not going to get much variety in the combat, because it's not like it's not like a typical game. It's not like a game in which you're on the ground, hiding behind cover, you know, running around cover and then shooting enemies on this ground terrain, because then the variety of terrain would give you some sort of feeling of variety. But the majority of the time, the majority of the gameplay is spent in the air, and it doesn't really matter what your terrain is underneath you, because the air is the air, pretty much no matter where you are. You know, you're flying around, and you can't hide behind cover in the air or anything, so it's all about maneuverability and whatnot. And so I hope that there's some good mission variety so as not to feel repetitive, because... Okay, orders. So, the missions they have here, obviously, I wouldn't expect them to have a huge variety of missions, being only 4, one of which has to be the tutorial, which is this, so it's really 3. So, this, you know, you're shooting enemies in the sky. This, you're shooting enemies in the sky, but it's more of a defense mission. You have to defend a tower, which I like. I like that, because that shows me that they are actually trying to add mission variety. It's not just going around in the air shooting enemies. Well, it is. But you have an added layer of suspense in which you're trying to not only just not die and destroy the enemies, but protect this tower that they're attacking. And obviously the last one is the boss, which I like a lot. And I think that they could get pretty creative with the bosses. So I'm hoping that they have good mission variety and a good boss variety. And I think they will, because I think that they're showing the intent to do that. So I'm hoping there's good mission variety so it doesn't feel repetitive. And okay, those are all my yellow things, the things I've highlighted yellow, in which they are a concern, but will more than likely get fixed or are not really a problem. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about things I do not like. I've already mentioned the first one, which is the lock-on color. When you lock onto an enemy, it's red, which does not stand out from the backgrounds at all, because so much of the game is red. I wish that you can change the HUD. I wish you could change the color of the lock-on to something that stands out against the red backdrop better. So, like I said, green. I think I would probably change it to green, because red and green are complementary colors, and green would stick out pretty well in red. But anyways, it should not. I'm not a programmer or anything, but I wouldn't imagine it being too difficult to allow the player to change the color of the lock-on. Or they can just change it themselves and make it green or something. Because it gets kind of muddied into the background. Especially when a lot of things are going on. It's hard to distinguish between the lock-on and the environment. So that's my first thing I did not like. Okay, actually, that's the first thing I wrote down that I do not like, but my biggest complaint about the game, which I will demonstrate. I have to fight the boss here. Don't judge my skills here, because like I said, I don't have my glasses. And I'm not going to sit 2 feet from the TV and destroy my eyes for you sickos. Start. Okay, so remember how I was talking about the area kind of being like Star Fox, in which you have this designated area you can fly around in, shooting enemies. So, you know how in Star Fox, if you leave the area, it will make you do a maneuver to turn around and fly back into the designated area. They have something extremely similar to this. And I will show you why I don't like it. Oh yeah, the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack too. That's another thing I like about it. Like I said, they have a really strong direction. And even though not everyone will like it, because when you're talking about music genres, obviously, as soon as you hone in on a specific music genre, it's going to exclude some people. But I personally like the music genre here, just like how I like the visual style and everything else. So I appreciate that they are going for a specific target audience, because it seems like so many companies these days try to go for such a general audience. There's nothing wrong with targeting a specific audience, you know? Anyways, that's besides the point. I remember at E3 during Nintendo Treehouse, the guy they were talking to that works on this game, they were asking him about the music, and he was saying how he gets some of his influence from the bands he listens to, and I forgot the name of it. I could go back and find it, or you can. It was this German... after he said it, I looked it up. It's this German rock band, and I just had to laugh, because I had to imagine that guy. This guy that grew up to make a game with robots, and on his off time, he's just listening to this German rock band. You know, you have to admire his... You have to admire... A guy like that, you have to admire his... I guess you would say... determination at doing what he wants to do. Anyways, like I said, that's beside the point. Okay, so... See these borders here? That's what designates the area you should stay in. So look what happens if I leave. It autopilots you back in, okay? When it autopilots you back in, when it's pushing you back in like this, you have no control over the mech. And the further out you go, the further back in it'll push you. It seems to respond in kind. So like if I'm just moving slowly. See, I'm just moving my, not boosting or anything, I'm just moving my analog forward. So I go in a little bit before it turns me around. It doesn't seem like a big deal like that, right? Because the game is only taking control away from me for a little bit. Well, the problem, it becomes a problem when you see this boss here, and specifically how he's making a big force field. If you touch the force field, it hurts you and launches you back. Like so. Oh, phased away. If it does it again, I'll show you. So, some of his attacks make you take really big knockback, okay? The knockback is so big, if you're fighting him near the edge, it'll knock you so far out of here that it'll autopilot you back in, and when it autopilots you back in, you are still being autopiloted once you're in the designated area. And if he is using his force field shield, which this has happened multiple times, and I've talked to other people, and it's happened to them as well. When it autopilots you back in, it can autopilot you back in directly to his shield, which damages you and bounces you back outside, which then in turn brings you back into the shield, and you just get bounced back and forth between the outside area here, and then you hit the shield, and you keep going, you just get bounced between the boundary and the shield. And like I said, when you're getting autopiloted here, you're not controlling it. See, look at this. I just did it here. See what I mean? And so if you're fighting him really close to the edge, that becomes a big problem. I would have much preferred they just have an invisible wall here, or, like I've seen some other games do, is when you leave an area, a timer starts telling you to get back in the ring, and then when the time runs out, you either die because it says you've fled the mission, you know, you've turned a tail and run, I think the saying goes, or it just resets your position. So if you stay outside of the designated, if you, like, for example, let's say you stay outside of the designated area for 10 seconds or so, it could reset your position to the middle of the map. I really wish they would do something like that, because this becomes incredibly annoying. Taking control away from you and then piloting you directly into danger, that's no good. That's definitely my biggest complaint about the game, and I think other people share that concern. Okay, so I guess I could show it right now. Okay, here's a minor concern. a minor thing I don't like. The shooting, which is... Okay, so the guns are the primary weapons in this game, right? Even though there are melee weapons. The shooting, personally, I don't think there's enough feedback to the shooting. I think it should feel more like you're shooting a gun. I think it's either the sound design or... I know feedback has a lot to do with sound design. And, you know, also somewhat the visual design. But I think this is more the case of the audio design. I think the gunshots, particularly the gunshots, should be louder. Because the guns just don't feel like you're shooting I mean, obviously it's doing damage, but I mean, you're not getting the feedback. It doesn't feel like you're actually shooting a gun with kick, you know? So I think the gunshots should be a lot louder, and they could also add some sort of rumble feature, because I'm using a Switch Pro controller. I know that's the preferred controller for a lot of Switch players. I honestly think it's the best controller ever made. Anyways, there's a rumble feature. I know, yeah, there's a rumble feature on the Joy-Cons as well. Anyways, okay, so they could add a rumble feature of sorts, so that way you feel rumble when you're shooting the guns. And so if they make it louder and add a rumble feature, it'll really feel like you're shooting guns a lot more. So they could also increase the visual feedback too. I guess they could add a bigger muzzle flash or something, but like I said, I think it's more so the audio design. So make the gunshots louder and maybe add a rumble feature option that you could turn on or off for the guns, because if the gunshots were louder and I was feeling it rumble in the controller, I think that would feel a lot cooler. Okay. Couple more things I don't like. I've gotten the major things out of the way, though. So the area boundaries, the lock-on color, and the area boundaries are the two biggest complaints. And I've heard a lot of people share those complaints. So I have pretty good confidence they will take that feedback and listen to it and do something about it. So as you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but I have prosthetic arms and legs in. I have prosthetic arms and legs because in addition to upgrading your mech, you can also upgrade your character, your human character. They call them outers. The mechs are called arsenals and the people are called outers. This game definitely falls into the trap of having unnecessary terminology, but I'm used to it. You know, I play a lot of Japanese games. I watch anime. It's not an issue, but I just thought I'd point that out there, you know. Instead of calling it a mech, they call it an arsenal, and the people are not humans or pilots, but outers. There's no real reason. I would say, personally, there's no reason to invent a terminology if there doesn't need to be a terminology. Like, I would just add terminology if I created a new concept, but that doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm talking about the gameplay here, not the story or the terminology. That doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. Okay. So if you go into the lab, you can use money to put enhancements on your character. Now, some of these enhancements actually do affect the mech and not the person, not the outer body modification. Okay, also, you can change how your character looks at any given time. The character creator is pretty good. I'm hoping and expecting they'll have some more options in here. Also, my face. Yeah, I also see my bionic eyes and the lines on my face. That's all from upgrades as well. And then here you have a better shot of the arms and legs. Okay, so body modification. So each of these categories, you have a tree. So outer means it's only effective when you're outside of your mech, walking on foot. So, see, you can't get this one and that one. It's like an upgrade tree. And then upper body. And you can respec these points. I'm going to do that in a second to show you something. So outer, increase outer HP. See, that means I have more HP when I'm out of my mech. Arsenal, this means it's an upgrade that is effective when I'm in my mech. So it increases the reload speed of my mech, okay? Then this, increase melee range. That increases the melee range when I'm using the mech, okay? And then when you get these things, like, so the lock-on gives me the bionic eyes and whatnot. Which I like because, you know, if you're upgrading your character, you'd want to have some sort of visual sense of progression as well. Although, here's something I'm suggesting. I know a lot of people would not want to have, you know, bionic eyes. Like, maybe they spent a bunch of time creating the perfect eye color for their character. And you can even have heterochromia in here, which is a very anime thing, of course. But you can have heterochromia, and you want to keep it. There should be an option that lets you visually turn off the upgrade. So, obviously, you'd want to still keep this upgrade, but visually turn off the bionic eyes. So that way it'll look like you still have your normal eyes, even though you are effectively keeping the upgrade. And you could say, oh, that breaks immersion. But honestly, I think it doesn't really matter because this game seems to really value people's ability to customize things, whether it be the HUD or the mech. And I think that should also apply to the human character here. What really prompted me to think this is that the lower body here, okay, so you see how I have these legs, these prosthetic legs here? Okay, I originally went for, I have it because of this, reduced landing recovery time. I originally went for this tree, and it actually gave me a different set of bionic legs, which, well, let me just show you. I'm going to, reset my upgrades here. How do I do that again? I know it's possible because I've done it before. How did I didn't have to search for it or anything. How did I do this before? I don't know why it's taking me a while to find this. You can reset, I think it's 20,000 credits. As you can see, I have 35,000 something. Oh, there it is. Duh. Okay. I'm good. Okay, it's right here. So, reset all skills. Yes, 20,000. So, as you can see here, this is my vanilla all organic human character. And then you get the bionic upgrades. It shows. So, look, I originally went for this is what prompted me to wish you could turn off the this is what prompted me to wish you could visually turn off the upgrades. Because, look, like I said, I showed you how these legs look. Now, look how these legs look, the legs I originally got. Look at how ugly that looks. Yeah, it gives me less knockdown resistance, but if I get knocked down with these giant feet on, these giant iron boots, I don't think it'll be easy to get back up. Anyways, my point is that this looks... My point is that, aside from this looking really ugly here, because the game takes so much effort to give the player customization options, from the mech to the HUD, it should also apply to the human character, and so you should have an option to visually turn off the upgrades, but while keeping them, of course, so it doesn't hurt the gameplay at all. Okay, so for my last thing I don't like, I'm going to turn to title here and then load my game so I don't have to look at these legs. Thank you for playing. May differ from the demo version, yes. To the full game's release in summer 2019. Can't wait. Okay. So you know how there are pieces of armor and weapons that can drop? Also, you can assume that any game mechanic that I specifically did not mention in this video, I just assume I liked it. Because obviously it's easy to point out the things I don't like, but if I had to count the things that I do like, it would take way too long. So it saves me way more time to specifically talk about the things I don't like than to just go on this huge speech about the things I do like about the game. So let me show you. The last thing that I do not like. That I can remember. If there's something else I don't like, I didn't remember it, which means that it can't be that bad if I'm not even going to remember it. I'll just use this one. I keep returning to this mission because there's a lot of stuff in here I can show you. So you can pick up parts, and if you have room on your mech, you can put it on your mech. Or if you don't, you can send it back to the base. And you can even pick up duplicate parts. Actually, I don't even know if I need to go in here to demonstrate this, but might as well.
Hey, rookie.
Scanning battlefield.
Okay, you can pick up
Minor concentrations of femto
duplicate parts, okay?
electronics will not be affected.
If it's a new part, it has this little flashing blue indicator on it, but I've been grinding this level so much, everything in here I already have. So Silver Raven, okay? I'm holding a Silver Raven right now. I pick it up. I obtained it. I can go back to... Actually, I won't keep it if I leave. Actually, I don't know if I keep it if I leave. I've been playing under the assumption that if I leave, I won't get to keep my spoils. Anyway, I can still demonstrate my point either way. Oh yeah, rewards obtained. I don't think you keep it if you exit. That makes sense. I mean, I was just assuming it this whole time. I never actually tested it because I was just making the assumption. Okay, so you can have multiple parts, okay? You can pick up duplicate parts. There does not seem to be anything you can do with the duplicate parts except for discarding it. Obviously, if you have a whole bunch of duplicates, I mean, there is a point to having duplicates because, like you see, I'm dual wielding this weapon here. Well, right hand, right weapon, left weapon. I'm using the Silver Raven in both hands, okay? And as you can see, you can have weapons on your back too, so you can actually outfit yourself with 4 of the same weapon. But there's no real advantage in that because if you run out of I have different weapons on my back because if I run out of ammo in my Silver Ravens, I can switch to the sword and then that gun with different ammo. But you just discard them, okay? But there are so many duplicate parts you can pick up. I wish that there was some sort of mechanic that would let you scrap a duplicate part and get something back for it, whether it be, you know, some small amount of credits or something. Obviously, like, they can't just add it. They can't just make it easier to get credits in the game. So if they were to make it where you can scrap duplicate parts for credits, obviously, they would have to decrease the credit acquisition rate elsewhere in the game, so it would even out. But it would, even though you'd wind up still getting the same amount of credits at the end of the game overall, it would still feel like you're being more active in it because instead of just getting a whole bunch of money from mission rewards, you get some money from mission rewards, but then you can also get a large amount of, you know, you can get the rest of the money by scrapping duplicate parts. It would feel more involved, I think, and it would feel like there's actually a purpose of picking up duplicate parts, and it would feel like you're actually scavenging and scrounging. Because I really like the whole aspect of being able to, you know, pick up parts of... What am I, like I said, if I don't mention a mechanic specifically, just assume I like it. So, for example, I really like the whole idea of being able to cannibalize off of other mechs mid-mission. So, you know, your gun runs out of ammo and you just walk up to an enemy, take their sword, and start using it mid-mission. I think that's awesome. Let me look. I'm looking over my notes to see if there's anything I'm missing or forgetting. Okay, yeah, I think those are my big points. If I'm forgetting anything, it can't really be that significant, right? So, like I said, very cool. If you're a fan of mecha, why do I still have these feet? Maybe it auto-saved. Load. Wait, what? Load saved. Oh, yeah, load the save data. Okay. I was about to say, I better not have saved after putting on those ugly legs. Okay, there we go. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, okay. If you're a fan of mecha, I would recommend this. Obviously, I mean, if you're a fan of mecha, this should have already piqued your interest. And I doubt Nintendo's watching. I've already given them... I mean, I doubt Nintendo's watching, but they might be. So, if anyone at Nintendo's watching, hello, first of all, and I hope you consider my feedback. But I've already emailed them. Well, I've already taken the survey in the email because I'm very happy that I was randomly selected. I mean, they say it's random, which would make the most sense, but who knows if it's random or not. I'm happy that I was selected to receive an email for feedback because, like I said, I'm a lifelong mecha fan, and so I'm very happy to know that my experience with this demo in some way will have an effect on this game in the end. Yeah, I love mecha. And don't forget to follow me on Twitch. Well, like the video, first of all, since you're here. Might as well. And also in the description, I have the link to my Twitch channel. And I stream every week, so I would like to hang out with you live there. Hang out with me live while I play games live on Twitch. And I will see you guys later. So, oh yeah, also, this should go without saying. If you have any thoughts about the Daemon X Machina demo that I did not bring up, I encourage you to share them in the comments. And, you know, obviously if you disagree with something, go ahead and say that in the comments. I mean, obviously we can have a civilized discussion here, you know. You know, if you tell me if you agree with what I'm saying, you know, if you'd want to support what I'm saying here, if you agree, because, you know, they specifically made this demo. I tend to just wander around. I tend to just play around with the analog stick when I'm talking. They definitely put this demo out there specifically for feedback, you know. So do share your feedback. What are your thoughts about the game? Put it in the comments, you know, if you agree with what I'm saying or if you disagree, or if you notice something that I completely missed, go ahead and share it. And I will see you guys later. So, bye-bye.